Hello, Violas. We are moving on now to page 9 in the Essential Elements Book 2. And we're going to start out with a rhythm rap. Now, the rhythm rap is what we do when we're learning kind of a new rhythm or bowing. And in this case, we are learning how to read single eighth notes. So you've already learned the beamed eighth notes when they have the line connecting the note stems. That is usually when you have multiple eighth notes in a row. But sometimes you have just a single eighth note, and it might have an eighth rest next to it. So if you look at the yellow box at the top of the page, it kind of shows you what those notes look like. The single eighth note has a flag, is what we call it. It's a kind of a curvy line coming down or up from the note stem. And then the eighth rest kind of looks a little bit like the number 7. So there's a specific symbol that is a half beat of silence, and then the eighth note with the flag is a half beat of sound. So we're going to go ahead and start with the rhythm rap. We're going to play this on the open G string. And with this one, we are alternating between quarter notes and single eighth notes that are separated by a rest. So when you have a quarter note, you're using quite a bit of bow. When you have just the short eighth notes, though, and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So just make the notes shorter and put some separation or space in between them. And it's very similar to if you have a quarter note that is marked staccato, which we're going to get a little bit later on this page. So let's go ahead and do the rhythm rap. We're going to go ahead and play this bowing on the open G string. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, good. Now we're going to do that same rhythm in on number 31, and it is eighth notes on the beat. And this is, we're in D major, back to D major here, and we're just kind of going up and down the first few notes of the scale. Good. Now, another way to mark the notes that are short and separated is to put a staccato mark on them. And that is what they've done for some of the ones in number 32. So you'll notice that you've got the dot above the note head, and it could be below the note head. Sometimes that happens, but there's a dot that is vertically aligned with the note head on some of the notes, and those are quarter notes. And then some of them are eighth notes with rests in between them. Those are actually played pretty much the same. So staccato is what we call it when we have a dot, and that just means make it short and separated, and it just does make it simpler to read. So we're going to play numbers short and sweet, whether they are staccato quarter notes or eighth notes with eighth rests in between them, same. Now, it is a little bit confusing when they go back and forth between those two different types of notation. And in most pieces, they would just choose one or the other. They wouldn't go back and forth between them. But in this one, they did use both just to emphasize how similar they sound and how similar they are played. Let's go ahead and move on now to rhythm rap, which is number 33. And we're going to go ahead and shadow bow this one in the air. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. When you count the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we call that subdividing. And even if you're not playing eighth notes, it is important to subdivide to the smallest note value that you are playing in that exercise. So let's go ahead and we're going to try playing rhythm rap on let's do it on the D string. happening inside your head. You can count out loud, but it's also good to be counting inside your head even when you're not counting out loud. You wouldn't want to count out loud during a performance. Let's go ahead and play number 34, which is called Eighth Notes Off the Beat. And we're just playing that same rhythm but applying a few notes to it. Let's go ahead and do Sunny Day. Okay, good. So all of the exercises so far on this page are basically going up and down portions of the D major scale. So note-wise should be fairly simple, but you want to be really clear about the rhythm. Now let's go ahead and play the Essential Elements quiz, which is Jesse James. Notice how this one starts with 2 eighth notes and then you have a bar line. We call that a pickup when there is one beat before beat 1. Not every piece actually starts on beat 1. So when it starts on the last beat of the measure rather than the first beat of the measure, we call that a pickup. A fancy word for that is anacrusis. You don't hear that as often, but anacrusis or an upbeat. And because there are actually 2 notes before beat 1, we will still start on a down bow. Often pickups start on an up bow, but this one, because there's 2 notes, we'll start on a down bow. We do want to be down bow on beat 1. Here we go, Jesse James. Good. That one's a little bit more challenging, so it'd be good to listen to it a couple times and then work out the notes, figure out what all the fingerings are, and then gradually apply the rhythms. Make sure that you are really careful about counting, especially when you get to those eighth rests and the single eighth notes. Good luck and happy practicing.